go through the minutes for the meeting. All right, if everybody's okay, I'd like to go ahead and begin the meeting, the TJPDC meeting on September 3rd, 2020. One of the first items we want to do is to go over the notice of electronic meeting. The governor has declared a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the nature of this declared emergency makes it impractical, unsafe, for the Thomas Jefferson Plan District Commission to assemble in a single location. This meeting was held utilizing electronic virtual communication, the Zoom software application, in accordance with the virtual meeting procedures and policies as outlined in item 4.0-01 of Virginia State Budget HB 29 as effective April 24th, 2020. Beware of the fact this meeting is being recorded. It'll be posted after the fact for everyone to view. Just a reminder, please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. As far as the public, if you have a public comment, we ask that when it comes time for a public comment, either for a public hearing or other comments, that you simply raise your hand. If you're unsure how to do this, if you're doing a video, you go down to the actual participants, and there's an option there to raise your hand. If you're actually dialing in, as I see some people are, it's simply *9. Staff will be looking for those individuals who have raised their hands to speak. Beware of the fact you have 2 minutes to speak, and staff will be monitoring throughout the process. During the meeting itself, motions and seconds may be presented without the use of hands by the commissioners. We'll do a roll call vote, and I'll ask that as we go through this process that Christine will do a roll call vote to make sure we understand who voted. We tried at one point in time to remember correctly. Everybody voted at once, and on a Zoom session, it did not work out very well. And at this point in time, if there are no questions on any of this, I would ask that Christine go ahead and do a roll call to see which commissioners are currently present.
Ned Galloway. Jesse Rutherford.
Here.
Yeah, I think Ned's on. He's just muted.
Is that him, the 434?
Yeah.
326?
Yeah.
Okay. Dylan Bishop.
I'm here.
Keith Smith.
Here.
Andrea Wilkinson.
Here.
Michael Payne. Tony O'Brien. Lisa Greene. Bob Babiak. So that was yes, Bob. Eric Purcell. Dale Herring.
Here.
Donna Price.
Here.
So we have.
This is Ned. Ned, I am here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ned. Okay.
So we do have a quorum.
Yes.
Sounds good. I appreciate everybody showing up tonight, for those who did. At this point, Chip, where it matters from the public, and I'll turn this over to you and Christine to see if we have anybody from the public that wishes to speak.
I think right now, Mr. Sean Tubbs is the only public member we have if he would like to say anything. Think so.
Sounds good. Thank you. Do we have any comments provided by email?
None at all, Mr. Chair.
All right. Then we're on item number C, the public hearing. And Chip, I believe this is yours.
I sure will. Sharice and I are going to work together on doing a presentation. We have a public hearing that is required for the CAPER, which is a annual performance and evaluation report for our home program. I got to thinking that because we have a number of new commissioners, it might be very worthwhile for me to do an overview of our home program for you, touch on the CAPER, and then turn the public hearing over to Sharice to give you a little bit of information, very high level information about the CAPER. And this is an annual report regarding our home program for affordable housing that just talks about past goals, and our performance in meeting those goals and providing assistance for affordable housing throughout the entire region. And I'm going to share my screen if I can get this to come up, and it looks like it will work. Okay, how is that? Everybody see that okay? All right. The home program began, it's a U.S. housing and urban development program, began back in 1990, and it assists state and local governments with providing funding for affordable housing in low-income families. 60% of all of the federal home funds go to 650 participating jurisdictions, and then 40% is allocated directly to the states. We are included, we are a consortium, which is a consolidation of all 6 jurisdictions within our region. And so we fall within that 60% of the local jurisdictions. Home funds for affordable housing, they can be used for acquisition, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. Counties can also use these home funds for tenant-based rental assistance, and they have a number of other flexible design policies that can address particular local affordable housing needs according to the location that the needs are in. Home for this past federal fiscal year was just under $1.4 billion. That's a roughly $10 million increase from the prior federal year. Make sure this is, there we go. And just 2 years after the program began in '92, all of the jurisdictions in our region came together and they formed a cooperative agreement so that they share the money. You'll see a little bit later, we do not get a lot of money. Our population isn't large enough. We normally get between $400,000 to $600,000 a year. But if each jurisdiction tried to do that alone, you would only be receiving, the smaller jurisdictions probably wouldn't even qualify. And the larger jurisdictions would only receive maybe $120,000 a year each. So in '92, everybody came together. The City of Charlottesville agreed to be the lead agency, and then all of the jurisdictions signed an agreement with the Planning District Commission to be the managing agency and the administrator for this program. The responsibilities that we have and the commission has through this agreement is we have to develop a 5-year consolidated plan for these funds. We have to develop the regional portion of the annual action plan. We have to do the annual CAPER as well. We have to produce an annual budget with an equal sharing of the funds among the jurisdictions. We also have the program requirements for design and oversight. We provide all of the financial management, compliance, and management. And then we also have to stay abreast of any of the federal and state regulations that are imposed on these funds. Of the funds that we receive, 15% of that total amount is reserved for what's called a CHODO, Community Housing Development Organizations. And these are community nonprofits with a mission towards affordable housing that meet certain requirements as far as having professional staff and also having affordable housing tenants within their board structure. We have several CHODOs, and the money has to go to CHODOs, the 15%. If we don't fund that amount, we would lose that percentage if we didn't have enough CHODOs for that to go to. Luckily, that's not a problem for us. The remaining funds are then reserved on an equal basis, but we have been practicing where the local jurisdictions, they share the money. And so that, just for instance, Greene may take 3 years of funding to be able to fund a sizable project. And then Louisa may get 3 years of funding, and then Nelson may get it. The dollar amounts end up equaling out, but they just don't equal out on a year-by-year basis. One of the things which is very important to HUD is there are very strict timelines as to when we receive funding, we have to have those funds committed or under contract within a particular time. And then those funds have to be part of a completed project. And a project is not completed until a low-income family is actually living in a housing unit. And while they're very flexible as far as the length of times, if you don't meet those time limits, then we're subject to lose that money back to HUD. So we work really hard. And because of that, any of the local jurisdictions who do not get their money committed, we put it back into the pot for the other jurisdictions to draw from. This has been working very well for us. I will say that with Sharice and Christine looking very closely at this program, with both of them being fairly new to it, we have found that it's time that we review this cooperative agreement with all of our jurisdictions and also look at the program policies and guidelines just to make sure that it's fully meeting what we need for our region. For the current federal fiscal year, we're receiving $644,000 to be distributed. These funds go to affordable housing providers that are identified by our local governments. And the current affordable housing providers are AHIP, the Redevelopment and Housing Authority, Fluvanna and Louisa Housing Foundation, Skyline CAP up in Greene County, the Nelson County Community Development Foundation, and then through Charlottesville, Piedmont Housing Alliance does their work, and Piedmont Housing Alliance partners with some of the other nonprofits, because a lot of the repairs or a lot of the expenditures that are made are more on the repair side than the new construction side. And that's really based upon the low amount of money that we receive. To give you an example, the department I had in Baton Rouge, the home funds for Baton Rouge was under me, and we would receive around $5 or $6 million a year. You can build a few houses with that. It's kind of hard to build very many units with only $600,000. So right now, what you'll see in the report that was provided to you in the CAPER in the past year, Albemarle has 5 completed projects, and they have another 5 underway. Charlottesville has 2 complete, but 12 underway. Fluvanna has 2 complete. Greene has 2 single-family houses underway. Louisa has 2 that are completed, and Nelson has 4 completed and 1 underway. So currently we have 35 housing units that have been assisted with these home funds. Sharice will talk just a little bit about the CAPER. It's the annual review, and it compares the affordable housing goals for our region. These goals come from the most recent 5-year consolidated plan, and it compares it to the actual performance, making sure we're meeting our goals with this federal funding. The PDC will be receiving comments on this CAPER from today through September 18th. A final draft will be developed, and we will share that with you at your October meeting and ask for your approval of that final draft before we send it off to HUD. There is a component that you will read in that draft about the Community Development Block Grant Program. The annual performance report is a consolidated report of home and CDBG. For our region, Charlottesville is an entitlement city, which means they get their CDBG funds directly from Washington, and they have to report their success in this same CAPER report. But other than Charlottesville, all of our counties, they can only receive CDBG funds through the state program. And therefore, none of our counties are required to participate with the CDBG performance report. The state does its own CAPER every year and submits it to HUD. But in this case, Charlottesville does its annual report for community development block grants, and it's rolled in with the home CAPER report. That's a very high level. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have on this. And if you'd like, you can just wait till the end and I'll let Sharice hit the high points of the CAPER itself.
All right.
Okay, Sharice?
All right. So,
Sharice, I'm sorry to interrupt. It looks like we have a hand raised by Ms. Rutherford.
Okay.
No, I totally pushed that by accident.
All right, sweet. Go on, Sharice.
okay. So our goals for our region are preserve existing housing units that we have, expand the affordable housing stock, ensure sustainability, support programs that aid in low-income housing. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at my other screen because I didn't want to print the paper. So they're mixed in with my CDBG goals. And enhance and improve access to home ownership. So for the year, within the year, what we did for PY19, Chip Sorter went over it. For home buyer assistance, our goal was 14. We completed 3, but 9 are underway. And some of this is affected by COVID. When COVID happened, basically, you know, the builders basically had to adhere to, you know, the recommendations, and building slowed down. But those projects are still going now that, you know, we're working back into our groove. Homeowner rehab, the goal was 17. We completed 11. 7 are underway. Rental units, construction of rental units, it was 4. We've completed 3. So that's good. And for new home construction, our goal was 1 and 2 are underway. And to give you an idea, since July 1st, where our new year started, till now, we have completed 10 of what was underway. So we seem to be going quickly back on track to getting caught up with our goals. So in 2019, in the program year, we completed 15 units, and that was, as a whole, that was 3 higher than we completed last year. So that's pretty good too. The Home Consortium, what we received in grant funds for this program was $588,830, and we've committed to a project that is ongoing or completed $410,752 of those dollars. And 66% of our clients' help this year fell in the below 50% median income. So we are helping those people who do need to be helped. So that was high level points. If anyone has any specific questions they want to ask, I'm here to answer them. Well, I will have the final CAPER complete and to this commission to look over. We're aiming for October. I know that's what Chip said. We're aiming for October. You all will see it though before it hits HUD's eyes.
I raised my hand.
When is it due, Sharice?
We have an extension. We can have an extension until December.
Okay.
Aaron is my city counterpart. We're trying very hard to not take that extension, but we want to do it right is the thing. We want to make sure it is correct, that it doesn't, you know, get sent back. So it's due September 29th.
Okay.
We can, because of COVID, HUD is giving us an extension until December if we want to take it.
Mr. Chair, I raised my hand and started talking. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay, great. Because I had a couple of little tiny things. A couple of the charts seem to have a broken addition button on the bottom of page 5.
Yeah, the
Okay.
draft, I know, I apologize. I noticed that the draft today, it didn't upload completely, and I noticed that today.
Yeah, there were a few. I didn't go through looking for every single one, but the one on the bottom of page 5 was one of them, and then the
Mhm.
top
We
of page 10
re-uploaded a
was
new
another-
one to
top
the
of page 10
website
was another one.
today.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure you were.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, Chip, this is a public hearing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any members in the public that wish to comment? And if so, please raise your hand. Chip or Christine, do you see anybody raising a hand to speak? All right, the public hearing will now be closed. So we will see this again in our October meeting for our vote. Is that correct?
We're shooting
Hopefully.
for October, but it could be November or December.
Right, okay, so, but we will get a chance to see a final version and
Yes,
take action on it at a later date. Okay,
correct.
thank you both. That was a great report. I appreciate that. If there are no further questions or discussion, we'll go on to item number 3, the consent agenda. And if it's okay with everybody, I would request that we take these individually. Does anybody have an objection to that? If not, let's go ahead with the first item on the consent agenda, the minutes of the August 20th, 2020 meeting. Do we have any discussion or any changes?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Mr. Rutherford has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
We have a second. That's Andrea. Ms. Wilkinson. Christine, could you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Yeah. Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Wilkinson,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
I'll abstain as I was not in attendance.
and Ms. Price.
And I will abstain as I was also not in attendance.
Thank you. Motion
The
passes.
second, great, thank you so much. The second item on the consent agenda is the financial reports, fiscal year 21. Chip, do you want to discuss this?
I will just at a very high level, get these pulled up. Just to, I think the important parts are that, to get rid of my participants here if I can. Here we go. Just to go over the dashboard, which are the higher levels since it's on the consent agenda. Our net quick assets are building themselves. We're at the highest point that we've been in over a year at 761,000. You can see that, and you'll see a little bit later as well, that both our assets and our liabilities are up a little bit. Well, our assets are up a lot. We've actually received more money in July than we normally receive. And that shows throughout all of our financial reports. We have a number of projects going that are filling in the gap from some of our state programs and our local government, local jurisdiction per capita payments do not usually come in July. So as far as assets and revenue, things are going very well. We also, I'm very happy to report for the unrestricted cash, we have moved outside of the concern level, and we're now at 2.5 months worth of operating expenses that we have with readily available cash. Just as a reminder, 2 months is our concern level, 2 months or less. We try to have 4 months in the bank, and because of the state holding back a few payments, we were below 2 for 2 running months. But now we're building it back up, and I think by the end of next month or the following month, we will start to see numbers closer to 4 again. With net revenue, July, as you can see, July of 2019, we had almost a $7,000 loss. And a lot of that has to do, we don't receive very many of our per capita payments in July. And usually the state doesn't begin making its payments for the fiscal year until August. But this July, we had a very good month with nearly $13,000 net gain. So we're starting the fiscal year exactly where we want to be. I do want to mention that if you look at the profit and loss statements, I'm not going to pull that up. We are 1 month in of our 12-month fiscal year, which I think is roughly 8% of the year. We've already received 19% of our budgeted revenue for July. So, which is very good for the beginning, but at some point during the fiscal year, we'll have a couple of lean months because we're getting a lot of the work done up front. The other thing that we're watching very closely is we have a couple of programs that are 6-month programs. So we'll be spending the full 12 months budget by December 30th, because that's when the programs end. And so from an annual standpoint, we'll be doing very good financially, I think, until December 30th. And then some of our revenues will start to drop off unless we add some additional grants, which we hope to know of 2 or 3 by that point in the transportation area. So that's the financials. I'm happy to report they're pretty positive right now. And I will talk about one thing that doesn't, for me, it's a concern level, but it has more to do with fiscal year 22. And I'll bring that up when we're talking about the FY22 projected budget. But I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I have one, Chip.
Okay.
You were talking about one project switching, I guess, in effective January 2021 to just paying quarterly.
Yes,
Yeah.
Actually, we have now found out both of the transportation programs, the MPO and the rideshare program will both be paying us quarterly.
Do you know about how much cash flow that averages per month that you're not getting now for till the end of the quarter, after the end of the quarter?
The rideshare remains pretty constant. That's a $177,000 budget, but the MPO, it is not so it's not divided out evenly. And with Smart Scale this year, we spent a lot of time out of the MPO program in July and in August. So we will have a lot we'll have a lot of revenue coming in for that, but we're spending a lot of it on the front end.
So you might expect to see something like $20,000 a month dropping off your unrestricted cash until the quarter comes around to fill it back up again.
Yes. And thank goodness for the rental relief program and the other programs that we have. We're building our cash coffers up so that after January 1st, we shouldn't have cash flow problems through June 30th. And hopefully once we get through a year of these new quarterly payments, then we should be set for future fiscal years.
Thanks, Chip.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept as presented.
Mr. Rutherford has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Wilkerson has seconded. Let's do a roll call vote. Christine, if you don't mind doing the honors.
Galloway,
Aye.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Ms. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Wilkinson,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
Aye.
Ms. Price.
Aye.
Motion carries, passed.
Thank you very much. Now we have two resolutions. The first one we have is the fiscal year 22 projected operating budget and local revenue requests. And Chip, I believe the floor is yours on this one as well.
Thank you. I can't tell what you're seeing. So do you have the agenda up or is that the budget?
It's
We
the
have the
agenda.
agenda up on screen.
Let me move this over and see if this is better. Is that now the budget?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. We haven't changed. I had no additional comments since I presented this to you last month. We're anticipating just over $2 million in FY22. As a reminder to everyone, this is just a projected budget that we have to do every year. So it's very similar to the local government setting their tax rates. We're setting the rate that we're asking the local governments to provide in their per capita payments. We're not proposing any increases again this year for probably about the 15th year that we have not asked for any per capita increases. We do have changes for programs, and right now it's a balanced budget with no expected loss and no expected gains. The budget right now does not anticipate any new additional hires and does not anticipate any salary increases or changes during this time. We normally present those when we ask you to consider the actual operating budget, which will come to you in May for an approval. So this is projected very, very early on. A lot of things will happen before we come to you with the actual operating budget, but we do have to submit this with our local government requests. Everything, we aren't anticipating any real changes in expenditures. One of the items that we have been talking about is in the rent payments, because we have been talking about the purchase of a building. We have an executive session at the end of the agenda where I'll be able to update you with our recommendations there. But whether it's rent or mortgage payments, we do not anticipate a large swing either direction on that. So that should not affect at all the budget that we're recommending to you. The other thing, if you, in the handout, and I apologize for the small print, I have not figured out how to make this better as part of a bigger package. But in your handout, and I will send to everyone a better printout of it. We break down each one of the jurisdictions based on their population, the percentage of the region, how much they contribute both in per capita and by program to the PDC. And, we carry that all the way out. The other thing we show you on this is once we deduct certain required matches. So for instance, Albemarle and Charlottesville, they contribute 100% of the required grant match for our NPO program. And then all of the other jurisdictions, plus a portion of Albemarle, they contribute to the grant match for the rural transportation program. So we take those matches out, we take other required matches out, and the balance, we divide it between 75% of the per capita funding that we reserve for regional projects. For us, regional means at least 3 jurisdictions benefit from that project. 25% is retained for a locality specific, a project specific to Louisa County or a project specific to Greene County. The other thing we sometimes do, and we've got one project like that right now, where we combined both Louisa's funds and Fluvanna's funds, and we're doing a joint project at Zion Crossroads. So For 2 jurisdictions, we just combined their 25%, but on a project that's 3 jurisdictions, that comes out of the 75% pot. So this gives you the specific if you're interested, and also the population, which is out of our bylaws. We update that every year from the Weldon Cooper Center's annual population estimates. With that, I will be glad to answer any questions that you might have on the budget, and that I will be glad to present the resolution to you.
Do we have any questions for Chip concerning the budget? Hearing none. Chip, you see, will present the resolution to us.
I sure will. Just in your packet is a resolution that puts into narrative format everything I just said. It gives you, oops, there we go. That it's a balanced budget. For fiscal year 22, it sets the per capita rate at 62 cents per person and 40 cents per person for our legislative liaison services. It defines the 75-25% split for the per capita. And this will be the budget that we submit to all the local governments when it is required to make our annual budget request.
Do we have any questions on the resolution? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
I'll make that motion, Mr.
So
Chairman.
moved.
Oh,
Okay, we have a motion. I think Mr. Smith had it first. Keith? Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
There we go. We have a second. Christine, do you want to do the honors for a roll call vote?
Mr. Galloway,
aye.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Wilkinson,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
Aye.
Ms. Price.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next resolution we have is the Nelson County MOU for Nelson County CARES 2020 Program Administration. And Chip, I believe the floor is once again yours.
Me again. Mr. Chair, we have an agreement, and as you will notice looking at the PDF of it, we've actually already signed it and we have begun work on the project. So I'm really hoping for a favorable consideration from the commission tonight. But it's the type of thing we could not wait on. Nelson County asked that the Planning District Commission administer a CARES Act program that I know all of your jurisdictions are currently participating in, all of the jurisdictions within our region. And so we're administering this for Nelson County. Of their CARES Act funding, they have assigned $350,000 at this time that they will be providing direct grants to small businesses within Nelson County that have seen some type of financial burden because of the COVID pandemic. For us, we will receive a flat fee of $15,000 to administer this for them. And if additional money above $400,000 is added to this $350,000 amount, then we would receive probably an additional, an additional $5,000 administrative fee. But we would ask you all to approve this MOU agreement with Nelson County.
I'll make that motion, Chip.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. We have any more discussion on the issue? Hearing none, Christine, can you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Mr. Galloway,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Wilkinson,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
Aye.
Ms. Price.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. At this point, we're on to new business, and I see that we do not have any new business at this point in time. That is still the case. Is that correct, Chip?
Yes, sir.
At this point, we'll move on to item number 6, the Executive Director's Report. And Chip, once again, the floor is yours.
Sure. I've got very little in that, the activity report from staff, but since we have met twice in the last month, I won't go into, and there's really no need to go into detail to talk about projects that we've already discussed with you. The one thing that we are watching very closely, and I referenced it talking about our financial condition earlier, and it will also reflect some of our recommendations towards a property purchase, is we do have a very, for myself, it's a high concern of revenues for FY22 and possibly FY23. I'm sure all of you have been watching the federal deficit, and it is steadily increasing for any number of reasons. But I'm really, because we receive so many projects from federally funded programs, I'm afraid that in the next year or two, that Washington will start trying to get a handle on the deficit. And the only really way to do that will be to cut funding to federal programs. And so, you know, a lot of times when this happens, you'll see the home program may be cut in half. The federal transportation funds that flow to the states and then to the MPOs can be cut. Or special grants that we apply for and receive occasionally, those are delayed for several years. So we're watching really closely what's going to happen. While we're anticipating a very good FY21, 22 and 23 may not be so prosperous for us. So we'll keep updating you on that, but it is a high concern for us. And that's pretty much the biggest thing, unless any of you may have project-specific questions from the staff activity reports. I'd be glad to pull those up and answer.
Does anybody have any questions for Chip? Sorry.
Nah, good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm really rooting for this whole, let's not have a disaster in the economy and the falling apart of our federal government. That really would crap on my style and our governments. But thank you for the prospect. Where does David, I have a question. David, are you still on this?
He is.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
David, so why don't you give us a little bit of a perspective of the state right now, speaking of budget things?
Well, General Assembly's in special session. They have a over $2 billion budget gap to fill for the rest of fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22. I think they're going to cover that largely by using the money that was frozen from this past regular session. And then they just really went ahead and reduced that to largely fill the gap. I don't think they're going to dip into the reserves. Kind of like Chip was saying, fiscal year 21, at least the state officials are saying that that looks pretty manageable from their perspective with the budget. But fiscal year 22 is a concern for them, just really with everything going on and not knowing what the economy is going to do, what revenues are going to be moving forward.
It's exciting.
Thank you. Any more questions for Chip or David? Okay, thank you. At this point, we're on to other business, and we're into the roundtable discussion by jurisdiction. So I'll call on you. If I miss anybody, I apologize. I'm looking at my screen right now. So if I miss anybody, just speak up at the end of it. And Ms. Price, we'll go with you first, if you're willing to go first.
Thanks. Thank you, Dale. I appreciate it. And Ned Galloway asked if I might do it since he's driving. We had a board meeting last night, and of course, I'll talk a little bit about that. I think probably the biggest public issue that we've got is we have voted to remove the At the Ready statue, 2 cannons and stacked cannonballs in front of the Albemarle County Courthouse. We're having a special meeting on the 8th of September. We expect that we will have several applications in for groups that or organizations that are interested in receiving those items. And we've been very pleased with the community engagement that we've had in keeping our constituents informed of the process. The expectation is that the items will be removed on the 12th of September. That's over the weekend because we don't want to interfere with the court procedures that'll be taking place. And we're working really hard to provide virtual opportunities to observe the proceedings for those who may be interested. The county recently publicized an affordable housing plan that we're working on. And of course, as I'm sure with each jurisdiction, that's one of the major components of every land use development that we have. We had a couple of ZMAs last night, one of which a relatively small piece of land that is going to have a significant contribution towards affordable housing. That was approved at Prophet Road. We have another one at Breezy Hill that we were able to spend 3 or 4 hours on and have it deferred. So we get the opportunity to deal with that one again in another meeting coming up. As with many of the jurisdictions, I know what we are looking at is ensuring that we develop pretty much to capacity in our development area. As you know, Albemarle County has 5% development area and 95% rural, as we try to fill in the development areas so we don't have to look at expanding into the rural areas. Green space, density, connectivity, and that connectivity both in terms of adjacent and neighboring communities as well as transportation is really significant. We're also, as with the other counties, we're looking at the CARES funding. Separately from the board itself, I had an opportunity last week to attend an event where Senator Mark Warner was present, and he stated that he believes that there is a very good likelihood that additional CARES type funding will be presented and the end of the year spending requirement will be relaxed. I haven't seen any definitive action on that, but that would be very helpful for all of our communities. And we've also we approved some rules of procedure last night with regard to hybrid meeting procedures, because as we see or expect, the effects of the pandemic are going to be fairly long-standing. We're heading very quickly into our fall and winter flu season. And so whereas maybe back in March and April, there was at least hope, if not expectation, that the pandemic might be a little shorter. At least I, speaking for myself, rather than specifically the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, believe that we have a long way to go, even with some talk recently of preparing for a vaccine to come out. So we're kind of anticipating that this will be our new normal for a period of time. And as we just discussed here, we have a lot of concerns, perhaps not as much in 2021, but 2022 on what the economic impact is going to be. So we're all sort of got the eggshells under us as we're trying to figure out the best ways to go forward, both with advancements, but also being cautious about funding. And I will, if it's okay, I'd like to just turn it over for Chair Galloway if he has some other thoughts for things that I'm sure I failed to cover.
No problem, Eddie, there.
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes, sir.
I guess I concur everything that Vice Chair Price handled. Quite the updates there. That all spot on. I guess two things. This may have been reported before by Supervisor Price, but we do have a Rio Road corridor study was approved for funding. And that study will focus on East Rio Road from 29 all the way down to the city line. as a major corridor and a major entrance corridor for us in the county. That's a significant one that will be going on over the next half a year to a year. And the only other one I would throw out, this may be more for MPO, but could be of interest to the other commissioners. Also in our meeting yesterday, we had a traffic impact analysis, not a traffic impact analysis, an explanation of our traffic impact analysis. These are always a part of land use conversations. But when I think of regional transit, I think of even the Affordable Housing Partnership, the Regional Housing Partnership, that it may be useful for other jurisdictions in some of these joint places to review how they're analyzing and going in, presenting or coming up with the data to present to the relative boards for decisions. So for what it's worth, food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Don. Appreciate that. Moving on to Keith.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to head out to pick up my wife from DC, so I'm going to pass on any reporting in for the moment. So I'll keep my mouth shut, which is a rarity. So you guys will get to enjoy that.
Drive safe, sir. Appreciate that. Mr. O'Brien, Lawyer on Fluvanna.
Sorry about the delay there. We had a meeting last night as well, too. You know, again, like all the other counties, we're focused on allocating those dollars. A lot of it is going into loan programs for businesses, as well as expanding our internet coverage. We authorized about $500,000 for expansion with CVEC into some of the territory that they wouldn't normally cover, but further down Route 6 and Route 15. So that'll help a number of the businesses down there, as well as the children that are there, I should say, not the businesses, that's ancillary, but the children that are there, because of course we've gone to a just all virtual for the year, I mean for the winter so far for this fall season, and so we're concerned about that all the children can access the internet as easily as possible. We're working with a number of churches to put in hotspots, as well as wherever is convenient that we can put in hotspots to do that. So we're a little bit behind there, but we're being pretty aggressive about it, and we're very fortunate to already have a lot of CVEC fiber in the ground, which is helpful. We are doing an analysis to see if maybe we can expand that into some of the towers as well, too. Separate from that, we continue to see some positive growth on the economic development site. Should have some announcements coming out in the near future, but we're getting a lot of momentum there, and we're excited. And so we're working on sharpening up our economic development package, which is a reflection of, you know, the finally bringing water to Fluvanna County on the Zion's Crossroads side, and I think that we're really benefiting from it in the long run. So with any luck, we'll have lots more jobs coming to the area. That's about it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I see you getting applause from your counterpart there.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Rutherford, Nelson County.
I have lots of things to say.
Okay, moving on.
Bye, Keith. Anyways, I think the biggest priorities in Nelson County is definitely access to broadband, as everyone's familiar with our $1.25 million we spent in expanding that. We're looking at doing that again and trying to get to another 500 plus households within the next 12 months. As we've come to the realization, it's a nightmare everywhere. Again, as I said in the last meeting to Albemarle and Charlottesville, guys, y'all sneeze, we catch a cold. Still got a lot of farmers struggling. There's a lot of people who are struggling all over the place. And I am hopeful that we'll be on the other side of COVID. We're all holding tight. And I hate to hear the word new normal. I hope that's, I'm going to go with we're in a season and then pray that it's something different on the other side. Because as of right now, we got a lot that's going on, and we need to get through this, and our kids in schools and our businesses open, and hopefully not seeing the sacrifices that I suspect we will be having to make in the next year or two.
Thank you, sir. Dylan?
I do not have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. Andrea?
I will be glad to let our erstwhile chair report for Greene.
I guess I'll say thank you on that. In Greene, a couple of things are going on. As most of you know, we had an issue with our water authority. We voted to pull out. They voted not to allow us to pull out. The resolution that the board has approved stated that if we were not allowed to pull out of the authority, we would seek legal action. So at this point in time, we're trying to determine what needs to be done. The bottom line is they have the authority or the ability to say there's not enough water to approve a project. And they also have the ability to say they're not going to expand the water access. So it takes all public comments. The planning commission and board, really, they could override anything that we decide to do as far as developing. They do say they have a plan in place, but from what we're seeing, it does not relate to a 50-year water plan, nor a comprehensive plan, nor does it seem to have a lot of meat and thought into it. They tend to want to pull additional water from a river, which feeds other localities going downstream, and in drought seasons, that's not going to practical. So we're in that battle. Our schools open up on Tuesday. We're doing a hybrid. We're doing K through 5 will be on site. 6 through 12 is 2 days a week, and any parent that wants to can do virtual. So the localities been working with different churches, different organizations, trying to get hotspots through the county. And whenever Nelson and Fluvanna and surrounding counties work with Central Virginia Electric Cooperative, I always hear about how other localities are expanding the internet and Greene County is not. And so when you use the CARES Act funding to expand your internet, we don't have those resources that you do. So we're very jealous. We wish we could use those resources to expand internet and be up and running in a timely fashion. We are trying to decide how to spend our CARES Act funding, and our EMT or Emergency Services or Rescue Squad will be going online in October. And that's what we have in Greene. Any other discussion from anybody before we move on?
Mr. Chair, if
Yes,
I
sir.
could, one thing did come into mind. As we're talking about our next meeting in October, we do hope to, if not October, at the November meeting, have a presentation for you that we will introduce you to our new website. We have completely revamped the PDC website, trying to make it just modernized and more user-friendly. And at the same time, we're hoping to also have for you a draft of the Regional Housing Partnerships Affordable Housing website. We have issued the notice to proceed and held the kickoff meeting with the consultant that is putting together a regional website and search engine for both rental and home ownership housing throughout the region. And so that local developers and landlords can submit their properties to this site, and folks looking for affordable housing can go directly to this site in search of those. So we hope to be able to run both of those by you at either the October or the November meeting. The affordable housing website, we're very, very excited with that. We do feel that we've received a little bit of a reprieve, and if you've all seen, the federal administration has put a federal eviction stop eviction regulation in place that holds evictions for rental properties for several months.
Question.
So if we can have that up and running prior to that eviction when that terminates, I think it'll be a very, very big plus.
Yes, sir, Mr. Rutherford. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that? So are evictions banned until then, or are we waiting on the feds to say they're banned?
The notice we received is that there's an executive order that bans evictions until, David, you might have to help me, December 1st. I'm not sure. Now,
I want to say it was the end of the calendar year.
okay, the end of December. Now, my understanding is there will be some legal challenges to whether the president has the authority to be able to do that or not. But as of right now, he has issued that executive order.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions for Chip? All right, if not, just a reminder, our next meeting will be on Thursday, October 1st, 2020. As of right now, the times to be determined. We assume to be at 7 o'clock.
If you want to do these in study hall, do you want me to tell you what the answers are so you can check your answer?
I'm sorry.
They're doing homework.
Background. Yeah, guys, make sure you mute your microphones if you're not speaking.
David, I think you need to mute.
Yep,
We can
sorry.
hear.
That, yeah, math is a bear.
Especially virtually. All right, guys, with that said, we are now going to be entering into a closed session. We have a motion before us. I'll need somebody to please read that motion, and we need to take a roll call vote to accept that motion.
Mr. Chair, if you will, David called it to my attention even last time, and I missed changing it. As we received the motion to go into executive session, the relation numbers are correct, but the actual exemption, instead of personnel, it should be for property acquisition when it's read.
Property acquisition. I am prepared to make that motion.
Thank you.
Actually, what I have says acquisition of property, Chip.
Yeah, mine says acquisition of property too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rutherford.
Mr. Chairman, I, Jesse Rutherford, move that the commission be convened to a closed session pursuant to property acquisition exemption found in section 2.2-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia to discuss acquisition of property for public use.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second from Ms. Bishop. Okay, Christine, you want to do a roll call vote?
Sorry, had to get the mute button.
Okay.
Ms. Bishop,
Aye.
Ms. Galloway,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Ms. Price,
Aye.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
I think he stepped out.
Yep, and Miss Wilkinson, excuse me.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion passes.
At this point, for any of those who are in public, we are going to exit in closed session. We'll come back into open session once we have finished our closed session.
I believe,
Chip?
Mr. Herring, can I interrupt for a second? I think now we have to read the motion to, oh, that's on return.
Yes, you
Just
come
kidding.
out. You come out.
Ignore that.
Yeah, when you come out, we have to read that motion. Yes, ma'am. All right,
Still
so.
see.
and Mr. Tubbs is back with us.
All right, we're now back in public session. I need a motion to exit the closed session. And please read it from your notes if at all possible. Do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll do it. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to exit the closed session. I, Jesse Rutherford, move that the commission exit closed session.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Christine, do you mind doing a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Galloway,
Aye.
Ms. Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Ms. Price,
Aye.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Mr. Smith's out, and Ms. Wilkinson.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. We have another motion to certify that was discussed in closed session. Do we have a motion to go ahead through the certification process or to certify?
I, Donna Price, move that the commission certify to the best of each member's knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call vote. Christine, do the honors once more.
Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Galloway,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Ms. Price,
Aye.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Ms. Wilkinson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That concludes all the items on the agenda. Before we take a motion to adjourn, are there any other subjects or topics you might wish us to bring up at this point in time? And if not, I'd like to state, I'd like to thank Mr. Rutherford for stepping in for me last meeting. I've heard some comments from some members of how grueling it was for those who participated.
I know. Well,
But all joking aside, I do appreciate you stepping in last minute like that. Thank you very much.
thank you for being back, fearless leader.
With that stated, it's nice to see everybody virtually. Hope everybody's doing well. And do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So made.
Do we have a second?
Aye.
Second.
A motion and a second. And Ms. Christine, you want to do a roll call vote for the last time for the evening?
Me too. Mr. Galloway,
Aye.
Bishop,
Aye.
Mr. Herring,
Aye.
Mr. O'Brien,
Aye.
Ms. Price,
Aye.
Mr. Rutherford,
Aye.
Ms. Wilkinson.
Aye.
And the meeting's now adjourned.
See y'all later.
Thanks,
Everybody have a great
everybody.
week and stay healthy.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.